I'm Jamie and I'm an addict. I'm breaking my anonymity to make something more available to the rest of the people in recovery. Maryland, back in the early 80s, started a fellowship called Chemically Dependent Anonymous. Very awesome fellowship. Um, it functions off the 12 steps and 12 traditions, which we were given rights to use from Alcoholics Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous. Um, I've searched everywhere to try to find this on some recording, audio, or something of that nature, and I've completely come up empty-handed. Um, so basically, what I've decided to do is, as I said, break my own anonymity and make this more accessible towards other folks in recovery that I really think would benefit from this wonderful fellowship of CDA, as we call it. Um, and I'm going to start off with step one. Step one goes as: we admitted that we were powerless over mood changing and mind altering chemicals, and our lives had become unmanageable. Then it goes on to say, we who are recovering from dependency upon mood changing and mind altering chemicals are generally able to pinpoint that moment at which we finally said, that's it, I can't take it anymore. Chemicals are in control of my life. I cannot stop on my own. I need help. We call this moment our bottom, for we have seen that with recovery, we need never sink to the depths to which our chemical dependency took us. We have also seen that without this admission of powerlessness, we have little hope of such recovery. Why the need for admission of powerlessness? Surely chemicals have beaten us down enough. Why make it worse by talking about how hopeless we are? Besides, there are those of us who are not always powerless. Early in using, and from time to time later on, some of us could control our use of chemicals and its consequences. Why not simply say, sure, I've got a problem with chemicals, and leave it at that? Step one comes first because it is the foundation upon which chemical-free lives are built. We need to admit our powerlessness so that we may become willing to do whatever is necessary to recover. The process of recovery is found in the 12 steps, and while simple, the steps are not easy. It is our experience that those who have some reservation, who hold on to the belief that they may be able to use chemicals safely someday, will not be honest, open, or willing enough to walk the difficult but essential path of the remaining 11 steps. When we do take an honest look at our use of chemicals, we begin to see our powerlessness. How many times did we say, I'll have one drink, or a toke, or a shot, or a line, or a hit, yet find ourselves loaded again? How many times did we set out to control our use, yet days, weeks, or months later realize we were worse than ever? How many times did we hurt ourselves and others as a result of our using, yet turn around and use once more? We even tried using, combining, or eliminating different chemicals in an effort to convince ourselves that we were not chemically dependent. Inevitably, these efforts failed. In the early days of using, this powerlessness was not so obvious to most of us. Whatever our reasons for using chemicals, to enjoy ourselves, to go along with our crowd, to mask our pain, to build our self-confidence, we generally got what we wanted out of chemicals. We could use or not use, and the price of using was not too high. However, it was the beginning of a fatal progression. As it continued, we used more chemicals more often to less effect. The worse our dependency became, the harder it was to stop. In the end, we were left with no power whatsoever. We now believe that this progression into utter powerlessness is the result of a sign of the disease of chemical dependency. We believe it to be a physical disease that consumes every part of us. Our bodies react to chemicals by craving more. Our minds are warped into denial and sick thinking that support our continued use. Our spirits are dulled, damaged, and eventually crushed by the punishment exacted by the consequences in our lives of continued use. We have no more power over our chemical dependency than the blind have over sightlessness. We are powerless. Whether the chemicals involved are street-type drugs, alcohol, unnecessary medications, or a combination of these. When we admit that we are powerless over chemicals, we need also to admit that our disease has made our lives unmanageable. We have seen that we can no longer determine what, when, where, how much, or with whom we use. We need also see that our actions and attitudes are out of control. The getting and using of chemicals became our number one priority, regardless of consequences. This pursuit took us to places to which we never would have gone unless using. Our Skid Row or shooting gallery may have been an actual physical place, or it may have been the emotional equivalent within us. When we have been horrified to the point of despair at our actions, we are ready to admit unmanageability. Many of us have balked at this, believing that we were not that bad. Some of us had lost all. However, many others of us still had some or all of our outward lives intact. We may have hoped that we could clear up this little chemical problem, then move on. We had to become fully honest with ourselves about the effects that our dependency had on our lives, whether outwardly or inwardly. Unmanageability may show itself in any facet of our lives. We may have lost our jobs, our ability to work, our families, our lovers, our possessions. Perhaps we still had these things, but there were problems between us and the boss, the teacher, the spouse, the lover, the creditor, the police officer, or the judge. There may have been no visible threat in these areas, yet we were restless and worried. Most of us, regardless of the state of our outward lives, suffered inwardly. We knew that we were not meeting our potential or living up to our responsibilities, and our self-respect was going or gone. Our ability to deal with life on a daily basis was compromised. Our behavior was generally erratic, immature, and self-centered in the extreme. We alternated between heights of egotistical folly and depths of self-hating remorse. Materially intact or not, we were emotionally confused and out of control. We need to admit that our lives were unmanageable to whatever degree due to our chemical dependency. Often, it was the unmanageability in our lives that brought us to the point of seeking help. We knew that something or everything was going wrong, and we finally admitted that this was due to our use of chemicals. However difficult this admission, it opens the door to a new way of life. We are not responsible for the disease, but we are responsible for our recovery. How well we say, I cannot do it alone, but I alone can do it. Once we are willing to take responsibility for our recovery, we are able to seek and receive the necessary help. Having admitted our powerlessness and unmanageability due to the use of chemicals and the disease of chemical dependency, what next? We have given up the idea that we can use without losing control. We have taken the difficult but necessary step of asking for help. If in active dependency we are powerless over chemicals and our lives have become unmanageable, then our own power is insufficient to recovery. We have come to Chemically Dependent Anonymous to find a power that will suffice. If we have truly taken step 1, then you are ready for step 2. I hope this helps some people. If this is your first point of coming into recovery, or this is just you kind of fishing around to see what recovery is about, find you a local 12-step meeting. I don't like integrating my personal opinions, but just find you a local 12-step meeting that has the 12 steps, the 12 traditions, and sit back, listen, ask questions, to people, before and after the meeting, and during the meeting, just briefly share where you're at. And I really do believe that life is easier. Life gets better. I don't have the same problems that I used to have since I came into recovery. And I've got a few years into this thing. I'd never sacrifice this to go back out there again. It's just not worth the sacrifice. I have a lot more peace and a lot more self-control. I can handle life on better terms today. I have a sponsor. I've worked the steps. I'm working the steps again, because even though that you work the steps once doesn't mean that all your problems go away. You get rid of some character defects, others seem to pop up along the way. That's just kind of how it goes. Sometimes you gotta check yourself, because those old character defects don't necessarily go away all the time, so you gotta recognize if they're trying to resurface again and keep them in check. That's what the 12 steps have taught me how to do. I really recommend that you keep on going to meetings. Go to a meeting in your local area. It's worth it to me. I know quite a few other people that are still in the recovery process now, and they've been around for decades. They're very, very wonderfully close friends of mine, and I've never had friendships like that when I was out there on the street doing my thing. So, sit back at the meetings, learn, listen to the old timers, listen to people that got, some good quality recovery with them, listen to what they say, watch their feet, and if both go hand in hand together, try to jump in their pocket, get their phone number. They might be your next sponsor. So you need a sponsor to get through these steps and start the healing and growing process. It's definitely helped me deal with a lot of tremendous things that have happened to me while I've been clean. And I recommend that very strongly. And you go to a meeting anywhere, they'll tell you the same thing, so it's not just my opinion. This is just how it's been done for a long time. Longer since I've been around. So, anyhow, find you a local 12-step meeting. Get your feet in the water. Don't stick a toe. Jump in. Give it a shot. If you don't like it, the streets are still out there. They'll still be waiting for you, and you can go right back if you don't like it. You know, give it a shot. Find somebody. Ask them to be your sponsor. Work some steps. Start this healing and growing process. You know, as we trudge this happy road to destiny, this is a long journey ahead. And I couldn't do it alone. That's why I'm here. That's why fellowships like this mean so much to me. And I'm grateful to be clean and sober today. I'm Jamie, I'm an addict. And I guess that's about a wrap. Keep coming back. It works if you live it.